Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics, reaching you live from our global headquarters in the nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos, Nigeria. I have a responsibility that I love, which is bringing you up to speed with the biggest political stories and binging through what's playing out in the polity. Every day we're counting down to what's going to play out in Osun State, where on August the 15th, the people of Osun State will have to make a critical decision whether to give the incumbent another chance or to get someone else. That's a big conversation for another day. But there's something about the state of the nation, national decentralization of our policing system. But all of that after this. Let's bring you the headlines. National Policing Bill gets almost 2 months to align action plan. Presidential Working Group calls for memoranda from groups, professionals, and citizens to strengthen legislative framework ahead of its passage. Vice President Kashim Shettima re-echoes federal government's readiness to partner subnationals as Governor Oborowere of Delta State seeks investment in Delta. Imale Campaign Organization raises security concern ahead of the August the 15th polls in Osun State. As Inspector General of Police will be firm in his decision. There's a lot to talk about in the polity. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. Let's get started with the momentum building up ahead of the Osun State governorship election. But the Accord Party Governorship Campaign Council is seeking assurance from the Inspector General of Police that personnel of the force will be fair and unbiased during the forthcoming poll. Spokesperson of the council, Mr. Akpelumi, made the demand in a petition submitted to the National Human Rights Commission in Abuja. Mr. Akpelumi explains that the recent arrest of the party members and the redeployment of the police commissioner back to the state raises concern for the council.
We want the Inspector General of Police to give Nigerian people and the people of Osun State words of assurance and affirmation that the election that is coming will be credible and that the police still have the capacity to provide security for the safety of the people of Osun State. We have every reason now to be worried about the position of the Inspector General of Police. Just last week, we made complaint about the reckless arrest of citizens of Osun State and being detained across the country in different prisons, in different police stations. But interestingly, after people of good conscience raised up their voices against the reckless abuse of government institutions in Osun State, the Inspector General of Police sent a signal that the Commissioner of Police be transferred out of Osun State. And immediately, 26 of our members who were unlawfully arrested were released. Interestingly for you to know now that the Commissioner of Police who was said to be transferred has now been returned to Osun State. We were rightfully informed that the Inspector General of Police was threatened that the Commissioner of Police must be returned to Osun State, and now he has been reinstated back as the Commissioner of Police in Osun State. It will interest you to know that the Commissioner has been returned back by the police. Now the Nigerian Police now have 2 commissioners in Osun State. One is to monitor, one is to supervise the election, and the current commissioner we've complained about is to provide administrative support for the election.
And away from Osun politics, Vice President Kashim Shettima says the federal government stands ready to support credible investment, strengthening enabling institutions and work with states to remove obstacles to enterprises. Vice President Shettima stated this at the opening of the Delta State Economic and Investment Summit 2026 held in Asaba, the Delta State capital. Speaking at the event, Governor Sheriff Oborowere announced that the sum of $100 million have been set aside to de-risk new investments in Delta State.
We hope to connect ideas with capital, forge strategic partnerships, and maximize our competitive advantages as a state to build an enduring legacy of wealth and prosperity for the maximum benefit of current and future generations of Deltans and residents in the state. So our goal today is to partner with prospective investors with overriding objective of building a modern economy that is strongly diversified and therefore can withstand external shocks in line with the policy imperatives of the more agenda of this administration.
I've sketched out the opportunities awaiting Delta State, and they're rather exciting. What you have to decide now is how to deploy your capital. This summit is about taking care of the gold in our backyard, of starting the years of hard work needed to deliver on our people's hopes and aspirations for better lives, on demonstrating that Delta can and will compete for investment and become the industrial hub for Nigeria that I want it to be.
I thank His Excellency, Governor Oborowori, for this bold leap towards a greater Delta and for creating a platform that matches the ambition of his people. The federal government stands ready to support credible investments, strengthen enabling institutions, and work with the state to remove obstacles to enterprise. We are co-travelers on the road from promise to production, from allocation to transformation, and from potential to prosperity.
Now, the Senate Committee on Public Accounts has issued a 72-hour ultimatum to the NNPCL, the CBN, and the Niger Delta Development Company, the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NPRC, and other agencies to appear before it over their failure to honor invitations to respond to audit queries. The committee handed down this directive during its meeting after officials of the invited agencies failed to appear without offering any formal explanation. The chairman of the committee, Senator Brian Dankwambo, threatened sanctions, describing their absence as a blatant disregard for the constitutional oversight powers of the National Assembly and an affront to the Nigerians who expect accountability in the management of public resources.
We have slated this hearing in order to reduce the volume of work that is with the National Assembly and to promote and enhance our oversight as members of the National Assembly. The letters were issued, invitations were written, advertisements were done in the public newspaper. At least 3 newspapers were done. But as at an hour or 2 hours now, after the meeting would have started, our guests have not arrived. So after due consultation, we agree that we move their reappearance to Thursday, the 6th of July, unfailingly. August. The 6th of August, unfailingly, to continue our legislative action. Contact them, and tell them about how members of this committee feel and how we can invoke some of the powers of this committee and that of the National Assembly if they don't appear on the 6th, the Thursday of August 2026.
There's this back and forth with the committee or ad hoc committee or standing committee of the National Assembly, which the Public Account Committee is part of it, has been lingering. And that has to do with the issue of the NNPCL and the queries being put forward by them. And basically, let's talk about the NNPCL for a moment before we go to the next story. It has to do with the 210 trillion naira unaccounted for, or some monies that need explanation. So the NNPCL has said there are account receivables, there are account payables. In simple English, what we expended, what we expect from the services we provided. And if you flush that or smoothing that out, there's a differential. But all of that is lumped into a 210. Well, the committee says, whatever you're saying, we're not satisfied with that explanation. You need to explain further because this is our cash cow. And this has been reputed allegedly to be a cesspool of corruption. So there's this back and forth. We hope there's going to be some level of closure to the issue of the account of the NNPCL and all of these agencies, because the monies, they are yours and mine, and their responsibility is to oversight and make sure that these monies serve the purpose for which they're intended. But let's also talk about something else that has to do with national interest. The Presidential Working Committee on the National Policing Bill has launched a nationwide consultation aimed at establishing a robust legal and operational framework to safeguard the effective implementation of state policing across the country. Addressing State House correspondent, Chief of Staff to the President, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, who is also the chairman of the group, said the initiative aims to design a lawful, professional, and sustainable dual policing system that brings policing closer to the people.
Monumental reform that Nigerians have debated over for many years. The question before the country is how we transform our policing architecture to become more responsive to the realities of our communities. Thus, our central task is now to design a lawful, professional, and sustainable federal and state policing system that places greater capability closer to the people while presenting national standards, national security, and the rights of every Nigerian.
He also addresses the relationship between the bill and the state police bill passed by the National Assembly.
The constitutional amendment creates the authority, if you like, the permission, and broad architecture for federal and state policing. However, it does not by itself provide the complete operating system. It does not settle the questions on standards, certification, recruitment, training, funding, command, or jurisdiction complaints.
What happens for states who have not been able to, come on board? Like it has been said, law abhors vacuum, so the federal presence will continue to dominate in that area.
This bill has to deal with different consequential amendments to other parts of the Constitution that we may not even realize. For example, the firearms bill, which only allows and recognizes a unitary policing system, now has to be, and so many other bills.
All right, so that's the crux of the conversation, the state police. There's a lot going on, a lot of moving in terms of security to see how the policing system can be decentralized. It's been talk. Looks like there's a lot of action now. Let's bring in our guest. Kingsley Uzoma is a security expert. He joins us right here joins us virtually, I should say. Ms. Uzoma, thank you so much for coming on the program. We appreciate.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
So, there is, it looks like there's an accelerated process as we speak in terms of ensuring that this happen. One of the part, I hope my producer can put it up, there is a memoranda that is being, there's a call for memoranda for people to make their contribution. But before we get to all of that, I do not know whether you've had the benefit of seeing the draft. I have seen a portion of the House of Representatives, there's also the one from the Senate. Because one of the things we look out for are the guardrails. It's a great idea, but we must also, we're not naive not to know that this can be subject to abuse because of, quote unquote, the maturity or lack of it of our political class. But let's talk about the pace of this process to get us a state police. Are you okay with the pace?
Well, state police is something a good number of Nigerians has been yearning for, and including professionals and other individual group and interest alike. But be that as it may, yes, is a very good omen coming at this point in time, but looking at it from two different angles. Yes, from different quarters have been consulted for one input or the other. Nigeria being a federating unit, there is nothing absolutely wrong in having a state police, but it has to be. That's why the consultation is very, very important. Something that takes cognizance of the peculiarities of our environment. And for instance, when this is being accelerated, given the fact that we are just few months to the general elections, that is where it's raising some kind of eyebrows, because in some quarters, some individuals have seen it as maybe a step by the ruling party to see how they can harness and control states, especially during election, given the fact that under this democratical setting, that the police is the lead agency on both internal security and the elections security matters. And the case at hand is just the current situation in Osun State, where for the compo there, the commissioner of police before now, there seems to be maybe in some quarters those who are looking at, okay, what if we are having state police? That means the commissioner of police, the head of the police there, will be at the beck and call of the governor, the same way as applicable to the federal police. But whereby you have the federal police and the state police working side by side, as is obtainable in the United States and elsewhere, our environment differs with theirs. But we are looking forward of this consultation, this outreach, to reach out to stakeholders on how this the blueprint can be implemented. Yes, yeah, but again, one thing is...
There's also my apologies. My apologies. I didn't intend to cut in, but we need to do this. We'll continue with that line of thought, because we'll come to the Osun State incident, because the campaign organization of the ruling party is complaining that the CP that was giving them problem in their own assessment has been removed, and now it's been brought back. It's been removed and replaced, but it's been brought back to play a complementary role to the already redeployed CP. It's just a confusing situation, but we'll come back to that. But let's tell our viewers on DSTV that will cross over for a live coverage of the commissioning of the Barefoot Renewable Energy College. It's part of the Energy Commission of Nigeria. Is taking place in Kogi State, in Ozara, Kogi State, at the Confluence University of Science and Technology, Ozara, Kogi State. The commissioning of Barefoot Renewable Energy College taking place in Ozara in Kogi State, but that will be only on our DSTV platform. The program continues on all other platforms. Mr. Zoma, let's come back to you. Let's use a case study. We have a practical one. The governor and his campaign team are saying this CP is problematic, is playing the script of the ruling party APC. They are using institution of state to intimidate, harass, and arrest our people. As a matter of fact, you understand, over 50 or so people were arrested, and for reasons best known to them. But when this CP was redeployed and removed, another one brought in, the IGP maybe gave an order, and all of them now have been released. But the same CP that was just removed, I heard is back in Osun State. I don't know what role, whether it's a complementary role because of the election. If you put this nexus it with an issue around state police, is this what we have to be dealing with sometimes if we get to this point? Or what's your interpretation of what we're dealing with in Osun State?
State, like I referenced earlier, is a clear case of what we would have to go through if we have a state police. Don't forget, by the time the state police come to be, the federal police will always want to be there to play their complementary role. And by and large, in terms of budget, and given that maybe election, there is a federal interest, they will always have their way. But wherefore the senior police officers align with their constitutional mandate in terms of professionalism regarding reiterating the fact that the ethics of their professionalism enhances the policing of the state and by and large their nation. So they are not expected to be partisan, okay? But the issue falls back to the Police Act. If it takes maybe the president or the governors, quote unquote, unquote, the politicians to recommend someone as IGP, AIG, or to some extent accelerate one how one attains to the level of a commissioner of police, which ideally is the apex of police career. That is why in situations like this, you see the police, some individuals in the system want to play the card of the politicians, okay? But like I had said in some other platforms of forum, the state police might be applicable or function very well in states like Lagos, Kano, Rivers, but wherefore you have some states, especially in the southeast, for instance, you might consider or think the other line that regional police system might be better for them, because I like this example. If you are coming from Enugu driving by road to Imo State, for instance, somewhere in Okigwe, you are one leg inside Abia State, you are in the other leg inside the Imo State. If there are issues in that area, how do you resolve them? And given in situation in some states whereby we already have the Hishba, like as we have in the north, and in Lagos State, you have the LASMA operating at the neighborhood watch. Some individuals who also dwell in this state as metropolitan as Lagos is, some individuals or residents has also accused the same LASMA or neighborhood of some ethnic sentiments and what have you. So that's why the consultation is very much important, that we need to look at it critically if actually there is need for us to implement this state policing system or overhaul the federal system and make it in such a way that...
Yes. Let's talk about in the independent. My apologies because of time. Let's talk about the independence of institution. It's a struggle on the continent, difficult for Nigeria. INEC is arguably not independent, even though there's an independence in their name. When you go to the field, you understand what's going on. Police, the judiciary is fighting a crisis of confidence. I do not believe that there are no people in all of these agencies, mentioned or not mentioned, that don't have persons of honor and integrity. It's not possible to convince anyone. They cannot all be bad. But you know, the bad eggs, they're lots, or they are the ones that we know the most. How do we help people to help institutions to be truly independent? Because I'm asking that question. A commissioner of police, that the IGP went to the state to say, Governor, I hear that you're keeping people that should be in police custody who are killers in your government house, where the governor denied. You also told APC as well. And then turned to the commissioner of police, I don't want to hear this back and forth, because we understand the man doesn't go to security meetings, he sends people. Now he was now removed. It's difficult to convince anyone that the IGP was not prevailed upon to bring him back for whatever role. I don't know whether you get my drift.
Sure, I got your point. So because
what do we mean? So that's the complaint of the Mole campaign organization.
So that's why we need to build strong institutions and not strong men. Okay. So if the strong institutions are there, and the institution that perform oversight function on the police, like the Police Service Commission, ideally by ITRA, yes, the men in terms of operational deployment are at the beck and call of the IGP. But in situations like this, it becomes the onus of the Police Service Commission, who performs oversight function, to recommend, given this case, this is what should be as an institution. And in the National Assembly elsewhere, and we also have a Ministry of Police Affairs, and also the civil society organization. Wherefore we have this kind of these situations at hand, then it has to be the people wish and interest will prevail, because the situation whereby even before election a commissioner of police is supposedly perceived to compromise, that doesn't strengthen the institution of democracy and its practice. Before now, yes, the police has adopted the approach wherefore maybe prior to election, 2-3 weeks before election, the resident commissioner of police is deployed elsewhere, and you have a fresher hands that can play a balanced role between the competing political parties and their candidates. Again, that also brings us to maybe Osun State being an off-cycle election. As an off-cycle election, I expect, yes, the IGP, which I believe he will still act on, to redeploy the Commissioner of Police, yes, as he has done, and not to listen to any air to bring him back. Then deploy additional 3 men, each Commissioner of Police across the 3 senatorial zones. Then he will now have maybe an AIG to oversee it, so that there is a level playing ground for all the political parties. But a situation whereby the police as an institution, in most cases, try to tend towards maybe the government, it doesn't help us as a nation.
Yeah, Mr. Ozoma, I don't have much I wanted to ask you on the program, by the way. I wanted to ask you, what do you think is that? Because sometimes it could be that the Commissioner of Police is doing his work and the governor is not comfortable with the man doing his work. Or indeed, the Commissioner of Police is working for the APC. So we don't really know what to believe on this particular one. But for the fact that the IGP removed him, the suspicion of what's playing out is subject to interpretation. But we must thank you, Kingsley Ozoma. Thank you, security expert, for coming on the program at a very short notice. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, as we begin to wrap up, the governorship candidate of the African Democratic Congress in Rivers State, Dr. Gabriel Pidomson, says the opposition remains active ahead of the general election, dismissing claims in some quarters that all political parties have collapsed into the Rainbow Coalition. Mr. Pidomson makes the remarks during an homecoming reception in his hometown of Bodo City in Gukana local government area of Rivers State.
You can see it's not just people coming out, people were highly charged. They have received it very well, and I want to say thank you to all of them and to all of you that came here to honor me today. There was a torrential rainfall today. From 10 o'clock, there has been rain, and yet they all remained under the rain waiting for me. It shows that they love me. It shows that they embrace this ticket and they are ready to defend this ticket. So all I want to say is thank you. I want to thank all of you. Thank the people of Bodo City, the people of Gukana, and the people of Ogoni for this warm reception that they gave to me. I represent the change that all Rivers people seek.
And that's it of the program. Thank you for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Ozoma. You've been served on Lunchtime Politics. Bye-bye.